This special on the Colorado River is funded by the Colorado River Association, CH2M Hill, and Montgomery Watson Howser.
Hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser, and we're getting ready to start a 2-day adventure. Now here's the setup. Even those of us with just a passing knowledge of water know and understand instinctively just how important water is to Southern California, not only historically, because without water, Southern California would still be a desert, but for future growth and development, water is critical to Southern California. Now, when you talk about water, the 800-pound gorilla in all of this, as far as Southern California is concerned, is the good old Colorado River. So we have come here to the border of Nevada and Arizona, not just to look at these beautiful big old red rocks that form this canyon wall, but to look at what's down in the canyon. And there it is. That is the Colorado River, and that's what we're going to be focusing on during this adventure. Jay, come on over here and introduce yourself to everybody. We're old friends. We've worked together before.
We have.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Jay Malinowski. I'm a water resources guy with a consulting firm in Southern California called McGuire Environmental Consultants. And we're here again. We've done a couple of shows on water, but we've never done one on the river itself. And that's our adventure. We're going to go from this spot all the way down to the Mexican border over the next couple of days.
Jay is the water man. He understands just how critical water is. And Jay, when you talk about water, you heard how we set it up. That's pretty critical right down there, the old Colorado River.
It is especially critical to Southern California. This really represents the very first external water supply for Southern California, going all the way back to the turn of the century when the agricultural districts along the river got water from the river. But now, today, this water is imported all the way into the coastal region, LA, San Diego, Orange County, Ventura, San Bernardino, Riverside counties. This water is used throughout Southern California.
And did we set this up right by saying without this water, Southern California would still be a desert?
No question about that, Huell. Southern California really only has 3 sources of water. The Colorado River is one, local groundwater, which is somewhat limited, is the other, and then the California State Water Project, which only started delivering water to Southern California in 1972, is the third. So if you look at that as a 3-legged stool, take away one of those legs and the stool falls over.
Okay, let's take one more look at this. This is boy, it's got a beautiful green color to it down there, and it's a very narrow river. It's come all the way down, what, through the Grand Canyon?
Well, it drains about 1,400 miles long from the headwaters to the Mexican border, so we're at about roughly mile 1,200. This is the river that carved the Grand Canyon, among other canyons. Before it was tamed by man decades ago, this river would, obviously, if it carved the Grand Canyon, it would rush through these canyons from time to time.
Tamed by man. That's a critical expression right there, because we are not here just to look at the river. We have come to this spot to look at this. And there it is, a grand sight it is. This is the first time I have ever seen it in person. Of course, this is the world-famous Hoover Dam. And Bob, that's your cue to come on in here. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Huell, I'm Bob Walsh. I'm a public affairs officer with the Bureau of Reclamation.
Now, you're used to people like us coming in and just standing in awe when we first see Hoover Dam.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even those of us who work here, we stand in awe of it every day. So it's no surprise that people who haven't seen it before feel the same way.
All right, it's a huge dam, and we'll get all the facts and figures on it in just a minute, because it's one thing to stand and look at the dam from here, but you have been kind enough to offer to take us up onto the dam itself.
Absolutely. We're going to go up and take a look at what it looks like from up on top and look at the river and the lake and get a good perspective of the overall thing.
So we're going to get to go up on top of the dam, the very top.
We're going to go on top of the dam, and we're even going to be above it a little bit. We're going up on the visitor center roof, which lets you overlook the dam and the lake and the river and gives you a real good bird's eye view.
Wow, but you know what? This is pretty spectacular right here in this beautiful big old canyon down here that really gives you an idea. Look at these mountains, and it's so rugged out here.
Now, this is called the Black Canyon. It's part of the Colorado River. It's, as Jay mentioned, one of the rivers, one of the canyons that the river carved, and it's mostly a basaltic rock, an andesite, very hard rock. That's one reason the dam is here. And it's a gorgeous place, very rugged country, and it's really hard to imagine that the river even exists here, much less that we found a way to tame it and put it to use.
But historically, this river cut this canyon over the eons.
Absolutely. Historically, if you'd have been here before Hoover Dam existed, you could have seen that river roaring through this canyon.
Boy, this is spectacular. We have now come from the river to the top. Well, we're not actually on the dam right now, Bob. We're at a new visitor center that you all have built here for people just like us to kind of acquaint us with the dam.
Absolutely, Huell. We're on top of a visitor center that was opened in June of 1995. And we did this visitor center because we had really maxed out with the number of people that we could handle on the tours. So this allowed us to increase our capacity almost threefold, and it also gave the visitors a much better experience, gave them something to do besides just take a tour.
Boy, you sure get a view of the dam from here. Look at this, Cameron. This gives you the look straight down, and you really get the sense of the size of this dam. Now, how high up are we right now from the river itself when we're standing here at this spot?
We're probably about 650 feet above the surface of the water right at this point. The dam goes down a couple hundred feet below that, but you can't quite see that from here.
It really gives you a sense of where you are. And here's the new visitor center over here. And all of this ties in with education, which is what this adventure is all about for us. Do most people, when they come here, just think they're coming to look at the dam, but don't really tie it in with water and how we get our water in Southern California?
I think they have a sense that it's tied to water. They don't understand exactly how. They don't understand that dams form lakes and that they generate power and that you release water for people. So, yeah, from that point, I think that's the real educational thing, is that they come and they learn how the whole package works together. They know they're going to see a dam, they just don't fully understand what it is they're going to see when they get here.
Because here's the dam, and there is Lake Mead behind the dam,
Absolutely.
And there is a roadway that actually goes across the top of the dam. So it's really all here when you're visiting here.
When you're visiting here, you get to see and learn and hear a lot of information, and it's really a tremendous experience, I think. We get a lot of people from Southern California and every place else, and we invite them all to come. We love to have them come and give us a chance to talk with them about where their water comes from.
Do you talk water to them when they come?
Absolutely. We talk water, we talk construction, we talk environmental, we talk power. We give them the whole package.
Because there are a lot of, well, these are all power lines over here, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Are we getting power in Southern California from here, or just water?
Water and power both. Southern California gets about 56% of all the power that we generate at Hoover Dam.
Really?
Absolutely.
Now, Jay, is what Bob is saying right on target?
It is right on target, and part of the reason for that is because Southern California entities like LADWP, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and others help pay for the dam and help pay for the generation capacity. In fact, when it was built, there was really no need for that much power. And those agencies, like DWP, that invested in it were really forward-looking in terms of when that power would be needed and how much it would be worth. And of course, all of that came true in terms of, yes, we need that power, and yes, it's high value. So this is a critical facility, as Bob indicated, for both water and power for not only Southern California, but the other two lower basin states of Arizona, which is right across on the other side of the dam here, and Nevada, which is where we're standing.
So this dam, really, that's Arizona over there, Nevada over here. Where does California come into this thing? You have to ship it to us across the desert.
We send the water down the river to you folks, and California takes it out down by Parker Dam, which I understand you're going to see later. The power itself comes out of these lines, and that just heads straight across about 220 miles into the Los Angeles basin, and bingo, it's there.
Okay, now we've come inside this beautiful visitor center because Jay wants to show off this piece of sculpture, and this is a beautiful piece of sculpture, and right off the bat there's more here than meets the eye, including what it's made out of.
There is a lot more here, Huell, than meets the eye. When this structure was being built, I happened to be working at Metropolitan Water District, and we were trying to figure out how to utilize this area. It's a rotunda, it's big, it echoes a lot, but the light is terrific. What we finally decided to do was we got with the Bureau of Reclamation, and we were able to get from them this scrap bronze, this material that you're looking at right here on the skirt and on the panels. And we turned that material over to a group of artists down in San Diego, and we asked them to see if they could depict all of the uses of Colorado River water in a sculpture made of bronze, and that's exactly what they did.
So each one of these panels, well, for example, here's one that's obviously talking about agriculture.
That's exactly right. One of the important uses of water. So you see agriculture at the bottom, and then each panel, if you look at the top of this one, each panel has a component of the dam in the panel to tie it all together.
Wow, and when you say scrap metal, what do you mean? Where did this come from?
Well, many years ago, the Bureau of Reclamation went into the generators in the base of the dam here, and they were rewired, rebuilt, reconstructed, if you will, to make them more efficient. And all of this material is material that came out of the generators that were original placement. And also, speaking of generators, if you look at each panel, you'll see that it's in a very specific shape and a very specific location as you work your way around the sculpture. And that's meant to symbolize the veins that are inside a generator or a water wheel. The water hits the veins, it spins, and it generates the electricity. So that was the story behind all of these. It's a magnificent piece of sculpture. I wish more people could see it.
What an interesting use of space. Now here's entertainment. So and recreation, water skiing, tennis, golf, music. And there at the top is Hoover Dam. Over here is, I'm not sure what this is. This got some cactus, some men on horseback with cattle.
Well, I think this is a depiction of the Southwest desert. Remember that there are 7 states that share in this water. Arizona is one of them, and those pictures depict sort of the Arizona landscape. Here we have industry. We also have a bit more
power.
Agriculture and power.
And over here, this is the California panel right here.
That's right. In the lower left, you'll see the Del Coronado Hotel, a real landmark in Southern California. You see a Mission. You see the Capitol Tower, Capitol Record Building.
In Hollywood.
And then the downtown Los Angeles skyline. And then around the skirt, we don't need to go around again, but around the skirt of this entire exhibit are the agencies that funded this exhibit, including Metropolitan Water District of Southern California,
Arizona, Nevada.
And Nevada.
And when you look out here, you're standing here once again, looking out at the dam, and it all ties together.
Not only does it tie together, but this is a great place, if you can get a picture of it through the glass. That's the old visitor center over there, that little building that says Hoover Dam on it. And if you take a look at this magnificent structure, plus everything that's down below that we don't have time to deal with today, and then take a look at that teeny-weeny visitor center over there, you see the improvements that the Bureau has made.
Well, we're standing inside a new visitor center because, Bob, this really demonstrates how important now all of these water agencies and the Bureau of Reclamation feel education is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having this, is to educate people about water, about power, how to use it, where it comes from, how important it is to our lives. I mean, try living in this area without water.
And boy, it sure gives you the sense. You got the power lines up here, you got the water down here, you got the dam right here. It all comes together right here.
Yeah, this is the start of it. Now, as you're going to find out when you go down the river exactly what happens when it gets from this point and moves on through the system.
Okay, we have traveled about 150 miles south of Hoover Dam. We are still on the Colorado River, although in this part of the country, people here know the Colorado as Lake Havasu. This is Lake Havasu on kind of a slow day. We've got one jet skier going by here. There's Arizona over across the river. But of course, we're standing here on the California side of the Colorado River, and I'm standing here with, Adon, introduce yourself and give us your title.
Yes, I'm Adon Ortega. I'm Vice President for External Affairs at the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California.
That's a big title and a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is, but we have fun at our jobs as well.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, you know why we're here. We're here to talk about the Colorado River and how important it is to all of us who live in Southern California. We get a lot of our water from this river, don't we?
That's right, Huell. At times we could get up to 30% of our total water supply in Southern California from this area. With the current drought on the river, we're only getting about 11%. And with the politics, if we could fix some politics on the river, maybe we can be up to 14%.
All right, now when you talk about politics, and I don't want to go into it too much because there's a lot of politics, always has been politics connected with this water in this river, hasn't there?
There's always been politics, and you can fix a lot if you can just get different states and different parties in California to agree on certain things.
All right, so the deal is the Colorado River is a big pie, and you've only got so much filling in the pie, and you got a lot of people sitting at the table, a lot of states, a lot of interest wanting bigger and bigger and bigger slices of the pie. But the bottom line is there's only so much pie to go around.
There's only so much pie, and then the pie gets smaller when there's a drought. And then you also have not just the politics, the people at the dinner table fighting over the food. When you don't have the food anymore, then people start to wonder, what are we going to do? And there's other challenges too. For example, the Colorado River is very high in salt. And so in Southern California, if we just depend on Colorado River water, it would corrode all of our infrastructure. So we have to blend it with water from Northern California because of the high salt in this area.
It gets a lot more complicated than most of us realize, doesn't it?
It gets very complicated, but it affects us in ways that we don't think about. For example, because of the high salt on the Colorado River, we basically have to replace our galvanized piping. I mean, what consumer doesn't have to deal with that when you buy a new home?
See, I never knew that there was that the Colorado River had a lot of salt in it.
Well, the Colorado River is basically formed as the Grand Canyon, as most people would know, erodes. And so as the Grand Canyon erodes through the force of water, it brings with it minerals and salts and all kinds of things.
So we're getting salt into our water supply of Southern California that's coming down this river from the Grand Canyon.
That's right. We're getting salt and minerals, and all of that we have to deal with because it has an impact. For example, every 100 milligrams of salt that we have in our water results in about $95 million in economic impacts. That means we got to take the salt out. That means we have to replace our equipment. That means consumers have hot water heaters that don't last as long. So it's a great blessing to have all this water, but it's not without its cost.
Now we are standing right at ground zero. The name of this place is?
This is the William Paul Whitsitt pumping facility. Mr. Whitsitt was the first chairman of MWD and led a lot of the effort to get this aqueduct and this pumping facility built.
We flew over this coming in from Hoover Dam. We saw it from the air, but we're standing right up over these 6 huge, or they're more than 6, there are a bunch of them, intake valves, because this is where our water that we use in the urban areas for human use in Southern California, this is where the water that we use leaves the Colorado River and is pumped 250 miles across California in the California aqueduct.
That's right, Huell. These are gates, and underneath these gates are these gigantic doors. And these doors are opened and shut according to the flow that we're taking through our pumps.
That you're allowed to take, because some agency somewhere, the federal government, I'm not sure I understand all that. I don't want to necessarily go too much into that, but this is kind of the spigot right here, and somebody decides how much water we're going to get.
Well, on January 1st, the New York Times had an article about how it was that the federal government had taken our surplus and how we had shut down our pumps and our gates. Well, this was it. There was a reporter standing right at the other side of the gate talking to the operator as the operator was actually shutting down the pumps and closing the gates. And so he was a very thorough reporter, and this is what he was talking about. It was right here.
That sounds very dramatic.
It was a very dramatic story, and actually we operate the river water supply according to different needs. For example, we recently shut down the whole Colorado River aqueduct for 30 days in order to do repairs. This place is pretty old. It's about 75 years old. And
this station right here.
This station and the whole aqueduct. And so what basically happened is that we shut down the whole facility so that we could do repairs. So we shut down these gates, and there was no water in the aqueduct for about a month.
Well, wait a minute. How long could Southern California get along without the Colorado River?
Well, actually, we can get along for quite a while.
What does that mean, quite a while?
It means that, for example, if there were an earthquake and it were to knock down the aqueduct and these facilities, we'd have about 6 months to repair them. We have a facility known as Diamond Valley Lake. It's pretty new. We started operating it in 2000, and it's now full. That lake, Diamond Valley Lake, has more water than all of Lake Havasu, and it's right in the middle of Southern California, and we can operate it by gravity. But it can only get us through for 6 months. It can also help us in the event that we have a drought. Also, on December 31st, there were a lot of people saying, well, if the politics don't fix themselves on the river, we're going to run out of water, and it's going to be doomsday. Well, Diamond Valley Lake is one of the reasons why we wouldn't have doomsday in Southern California for quite a while.
But this still, when we read about water controversies and water coming to California, allotments of water coming to California from the Colorado River, this pumping station right here is what we're talking about as far as amounts of water leaving the river and coming into California.
If this pumping station weren't here, we wouldn't have a significant amount of water flowing through our taps in Southern California.
Okay, we've come back behind the intake pumping plant because, Don, you wanted to show us these pipes. What is it you call these pipes?
Well, this is the beginning of the journey. These are the intake pipes, and basically what happens is that the water came in at the other end, it goes through our pumping facility, and then it gets pumped up this hill. And these pipes here have been here since the 1930s. Wow. The other ones since the 1950s. Here they go through a series of reservoirs all the way to the aqueduct, and then it actually flows into Southern California.
So this is where it all happens, right here, coming out of the Colorado River and beginning its journey over 200 miles west.
That's right.
To Southern California, into Southern California.
And I've talked to the engineers, and they tell me it takes the water about 7 days to make it over to Southern California once it leaves here. If you were to look at a molecule of water and how long it would travel to get to Southern California. So here's the amazing part. When you shut down the pumps here, it takes about 7 days for the water to actually clear all of the pumping facilities. Wow. So you can't just shut it down.
You know, it's almost surreal standing here by these huge pipes with the sun reflecting off of them, the big old rivets there, and knowing that that's been there over 60 years, and that these pipes literally provide a huge percentage of our drinking water in Southern California.
It's a huge amount of our drinking water, and it's also, for example, what we use when we irrigate our gardens. And a lot of it gets wasted, so we're trying to make sure Southern Californians stop overwatering their yards, because most people overwater by about 5 feet a year. So we can save a lot of energy and save the taxpayers of Southern California a lot of money if we just think a little more when we water our yards and reduce our watering.
Well, a lot of water flows through these pipes every day, has been since early 1940s.
Yep.
These pipes continue to pump not only Southern California's history, but Southern California's present and Southern California's future.
I agree. I call it one of the blessings of Southern California. Most places around the world, they celebrate, their common quests and their challenges. While Southern California, it's a semi-arid region. We would never have enough water just with the native supplies. So we've had to do this. And the fact that there were people in the 1920s that could plan this. William Mulholland, by the way, he surveyed this all on horseback. This whole 200 miles that you've talked about. And when the engineers came in to do the formal work in aligning these pipes and the aqueduct, guess what route they selected? The one that William Mulholland selected on horseback.
Yeah.
So amazing people back in those days, and we need to be just as amazing to keep it.
Okay, we have left the intake pumping station. We have driven, Jay, about 15 miles down Highway 62?
That's right, downriver. We're moving downriver.
All right, the river actually is just about an eighth of a mile right over here, right over this little...
right over that berm.
All right, now we have come here because you wanted to bring us to a very historic place right here on the Colorado River.
Well, this is a place that people have heard about, but nobody ever comes here. And we're going to look at the entire town in about a minute and a half. This is Earp, California.
Earp? Actually, it says on the post office, Wyatt Earp, California.
I think they put that in quotation marks, and I think that some of the locals wanted to make sure that we knew which Earp it was.
Are you all Earpians? Do you all live here?
No, I live in Big River.
In Big River, but you use the post office at Earp.
Yep.
Is Earp a pretty good place?
I guess so. I've been here for 20-some years.
Yeah, yeah. It's a friendly place, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You're putting tape on a box. That's why you don't have a lot of time to talk
That's
with
right.
us.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Wait a minute. Let's talk to this guy. He's come out with his mail. Hi, how you doing? Are you an Earpian?
Yeah, you might say that.
Is that what they call people who live in Earp?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, tell us a little bit about Earp. We're standing in front of the Wyatt Earp, California Post Office, 92242.
Okay, this railroad spur here, when they built the dam up here, they had to have a name for it. So they named this the Wyatt Earp Spur. This is why this whole area here is called Wyatt Earp, or the Earp area. They used to have some cabins over here, but they're all gone now. Everything's all gone now.
Well, did Wyatt Earp ever come here?
No, he was not around. He came to Parker one time, and the local guy in the barber shop kicked him out of town, told him never to come back. He is in Vidal. Wyatt was located in Vidal. Vidal is over here.
Well, so why is this place called Earp? Just because?
Well, just because the railroad needed a name for this spur that comes down here.
Wow.
That was to unload all the stuff that was going to need for Parker Dam.
To build Parker Dam.
Right.
So see, really, this is part of the river history here.
Oh, it's connected to the history of the river because the supplies all had to come through on rail. I mean, you're talking about before any of these roads existed.
Yeah.
So this was an important spot.
Well, there was no bridge.
To get across the river.
There was no bridge here. There was no auto bridge or anything. They had a ferry that went across just on the other side of where the bridge is there now.
Well, wait a minute. Come here with me a minute. Come here a minute. Look, I was just looking over your shoulder. If Wyatt Earp never visited here, look, you got his tombstone right here. R.I.P. Wyatt Earp.
That's for affected cause. The guy at the post office here, he set this all up.
So this is all a Chamber of Commerce ruse to get people here.
Oh, I don't know about that.
More Colorado River water, but this time it's not in the Colorado River, it's not in Lake Havasu, it's not in a big water pipe, it's not even in California, it's in a big canal in
Arizona. Huell, I brought you over here because I wanted to introduce you to Gary Hansen, who's joined us, and Gary represents the Colorado River Indian tribes. We always talk about the 7 basin states having rights to Colorado River water, but there's an Indian nation out there that also has rights to the water, and I thought we needed to talk about that a little bit.
the Indian Nation. This is very interesting because driving over here with you, Gary, you were telling us that actually these Indian tribes have the first and oldest rights to Colorado River water.
Yes, that's right, Hugh. President Lincoln formed this reservation back in 1865, and the basis for the reservation was the irrigable lands here in this valley. And this water right that we get here is based on those irrigable lands.
So you signed a treaty with Abraham Lincoln.
That's right.
In
1865.
That guaranteed you access to Colorado River water.
Yes, that's right. Over time, the establishment of the reservation set the criteria, and we have the oldest right based on that initial formation of the reservation.
Now, obviously, you're using this water. I'm looking right across the way there at that beautiful, bright green field over there. You're using your water for irrigation, for agricultural purposes.
Yes, that's right. Here in the Parker Valley, we irrigate about 80,000 acres of nice crops like that alfalfa over there.
And it comes right in these canals. Now, is that mud down there, or is that concrete?
Well, along through here, it's concreted, but there's about half of the canals in the valley are concrete and half are just mud.
Boy, that looks clean.
It's beautiful water.
And cool.
Yeah.
It looks like a big old long swimming hole to me.
Well, a lot of people think it is a swimming hole. We have a hard time keeping people out, especially when it gets a few degrees warmer around here.
I bet. Now, are you in any trouble and losing any of your water?
Well, we sure hope not.
You have to share it, though, don't you?
Well, we share it. That's right. Everybody shares in the river, but, we have our perfected right that we think we put to good use, so we're happy to get this water. Actually, the size of this canal is about the same size of the canal that Metropolitan Water District takes to Los Angeles, so we have just about an equal share out of the river here as Met does.
Wow, now that doesn't seem quite right. They got as much water as Los Angeles is getting.
Well, that's Abraham Lincoln did that, though, But
He's a noble man.
No, but I mean, the story, though, is that none of this water really is unlimited anymore, is it?
Well, I think that's certainly one of the issues that we need people to understand is that there was a time when Colorado River water was just freely available. Arizona wasn't using all of their right. Nevada wasn't using all of their right. Other users weren't. Today, that just isn't the case anymore. The Colorado River is oversubscribed. Everyone's using everything that they have a right to use, and there just needs to be a greater sharing going on, and certainly the various agencies that get water from the river probably, this is a political part of this program, probably need to sit down and talk with each other a little more than they do right now.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to add, since we're looking at a canal here and not the river, if the camera pans up and looks in the background, they can see that railroad bridge that we crossed to get into Arizona. And the point of that is that we're about a mile, maybe a mile and a half off of the river right here. And Gary, how many miles of canal do you have in this?
Well, we have about 100 miles of canal and about 100 miles of drain.
You have 100 miles like this?
No, not this big, but 100 miles of delivery canal. This is the largest canal on the
Covering
reservation.
how big an area here?
Well, we have about 107,000 acres on down this way that we have irrigable rights to, but we only irrigate about 80,000 of it.
And the names of these Colorado River Indian tribes, because these are not California tribes, are they?
No, they're not, Huell. There are 4 tribes who share this reservation. There are Mojaves, who are the indigenous people who've been here forever. There are Chemehuevis, who are actually Paiutes who came down from Nevada, who are along the river because of the mesquite trees and harvesting that crop during drought. And then there are relocated Navajos and Hopis that were relocated here to justify the government building the Headgate Rock Dam that provides this water here for us.
So the government years ago built this dam to get the water from the Colorado River to these canals.
Yes, this is the oldest federally funded irrigation project in the country.
Wait a minute, say that again?
The oldest federally funded irrigation project in the country is here.
Right here?
That's right.
With Colorado River water?
Yes, that's right.
Well, we're following the water, the good old Colorado River, and here it is. We're now in Blythe, and our new tour guide here, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Ed Smith, General Manager of the Palo Verde Irrigation District.
Palo Verde Irrigation District, and you know why we're here? We're here to talk about the Colorado River, and right off the bat, you informed us that is the Colorado River.
That's what's left of it after it leaves Parker.
Okay, and then we've got another little bit of information over here. What's this?
Well, this is our diversion, our water. We divert about 1 million acre-feet of water a year through our system. This is what feeds the Palo Verde Valley for the agricultural and potable uses. We divert a little bit less than 1 million acre-feet a year, and our system returns what we don't use back to the river, so our consumptive use is a little under 500,000 acre-feet a year.
And this is what you're getting, you're siphoning this off the Colorado River. Now, where's the rest of the Colorado River?
Okay, the rest of the Colorado River over here is right over here. What's left, what you're seeing here is what will fill the obligations for Imperial Irrigation District, Coachella Valley Water District.
So this is what keeps going south.
What keeps going south. This is to this will satisfy the 1944 treaty with Mexico, all of the Yuma irrigation districts, and the Yuma Mesa irrigation districts. This is what's left.
This is very interesting right here, because look at this. Here's the Colorado River as it comes down here full speed, and here it is after you've diverted what you've diverted off from it. And this is what continues south.
This goes south, and as I said, this is what Yuma, Imperial Valley, Coachella, and Mexico will get.
Now, this system that you've got here goes way back to the first earliest days when Blythe was founded by Tom Blythe back in the 1870s.
Yes, in 1877, he filed for the first legal water rights, had the first legal filing for water rights in California on the Colorado River. So that's why Blythe has the priority one Colorado River water use in California.
Because it was one of the first, it was one of the first arrangements made to get water off the Colorado River for purposes of what? Agriculture out in this area?
Agriculture, mining, livestock, and domestic use.
What was here before? Nothing was here.
Mesquite trees and hemp plants and cottonwood trees and mosquitoes.
Now, do the people of Blythe, have they always understood and appreciated their relationship to the river?
Very much so. They understand that the town, the valley, there wouldn't be a Blythe without the river. That's what the valley is based on, is the economy of the water, whether primarily farming, agriculture. To some degree now, we have a lot of tourists come down from LA and San Diego, and
so on a weekend, this would be full of water skiers and boaters, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes.
But you used to take this water for granted, didn't you? I mean, there's always been water here, all the water you wanted.
That's correct. In fact, too much water most of the time. Before the Hoover Dam was built, this valley was either flooded or dry, one or the other, and it went through wet and dry cycles. The water table was always extremely high, 5 feet or less. And
wait a minute, you mean you could go down 5 feet and you would hit water out here in the desert?
That's correct. In between the mesa and the river, most of the water table up until the 60s was 5 feet or less. In the 60s, the district floated a bond and lowered the drains, dropped the water table, changed the whole dynamics of the valley, really, because before then, if you tried to put a swimming pool at your house, you had to put the deep end underwater and pump the water out after the pool was finished.
Wait a minute, you mean if you were digging a pool, it would fill full of water just because it was the water table was so high that when you were digging the pool, the water would seep in?
That's correct. And most of these farmhouses and houses outside the city were on septic tanks, and you had to put sand points around where you were going to locate a septic tank, or the water would pop it back out of the ground before you had covered with dirt. So,
well, let's finish talking a little bit about this river, because here's what you're getting off the river right here. Is this enough to do what you need to do here agriculturally?
Yeah, we've got, being priority one, we've got all the water we need for our agricultural uses, and we actually have an unquantified priority one, so the other districts kind of get what we don't use. And our usage doesn't change a whole lot because our contract is for enough water for 104,500 acres of ground, and that is a defined area now, and the cropping patterns don't change much, so we use about the same water every year. We really couldn't expand because the only way we could is switch to crops that use more water because we don't have any more area to grow to.
Yeah.
So,
but you understand, of course, now why there's so much. I mean, you talk about politics. We're talking about a lot of liquid politics flowing right here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We are, by being priority one, we're in the catbird seat. Everybody is downstream from us in California. So we understand the politics very well.
Are people trying to nibble away at this water right here?
We are currently negotiating with 2 different agencies to furnish water out of our district to other agencies.
Because the whole idea, isn't it? Let's end up over here. This is such a wonderful place to be because, boy, you see the whole thing right here. This is what's left of the Colorado River right here. It gets narrower and narrower as we head south because there's less and less water in the river.
Well, yes, by the time just above here, the Crit Indian tribe has pulled their water off. We're pulling off ours here, and the Mojave Indian tribe above that. And when it gets down here, it's not much left to divide up.
Well, and this right here has got to be divided up by Yuma, by the Imperial Valley Irrigation District,
Coachella,
Yuma
County water users, the Bard Winter Haven District. There's a couple of smaller districts in Yuma, the Yuma Mesa District, and by the 1944 treaty with Mexico, there has to be 1.5 million acre feet of water sent to Mexico during the year to meet that treaty obligation. So that all flows through here also.
So this is the water that really is getting scarce right here.
This is the water they're fighting over right here.
Well, before we leave Blythe, Ed has brought us to this very historic place on the Colorado River. There's the bridge over the I-10 freeway that connects California with Arizona. This, of course, is the Colorado River. And what's interesting about this place, Ed, this is a very historic place because if we had been standing here back in the 1890s and maybe just kind of turned around and looked south down the Colorado River, what would we have seen heading toward us?
Well, it's pretty likely you've seen a steamboat bringing supplies to the miners and the Army camps up and down the river and picking up gold and silver to haul back through the Gulf of California around back to San Francisco where they were based out of.
We would have seen huge riverboats coming up the Colorado River from Mexico all the way up to Blythe and places even further north.
That's correct. They've gone. Would go up through what's now Needles, and there was one that made it actually as far as what's currently Lake Mead, but not many made that far. But there was lots of them up and down between here and particularly to the Bill Williams River area on the south end of Lake Havasu. There was several mines in that area that they supplied and Army depots.
See, I don't think people know that bit of history, do they?
I doubt it very seriously. Actually, around Yuma, there's still some remnants of old steamboat docks that I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of, up in the Needles area, they have what they call the ringbolt area, which is if you're a diver, you can go free float the rapids above Needles and see where the rings were on the walls where they were the rapids were so high that they had to winch the steamboats up through that area.
And those steamboats, that's how far down into Mexico? We're talking about the Gulf of California. That's a couple of 100 miles away.
I think 150, 180 down to the mouth.
Amazing.
Yes.
Did they ever get stuck on the Colorado River?
Well, they claim that a lot of times if their timing was off and they left too late in the spring when the water was receding, they would sometimes hit sandbars and all the occupants would have to get off and push. If they couldn't push the steamboat off the sandbar, they would just have to leave it till next spring when it floated off again.
That's amazing.
And the people would have to walk back to Yuma or up to La Paz or wherever the closest place to meet a land and horses, I guess.
That is an amazing story, and of course there's so much history to this river, and all of these communities up and down the river are so connected with the river. What would happen if you woke up some morning and you looked out here and this river wasn't here?
I would say life as we know it would probably stop at about Albuquerque or someplace, at least the other side of Phoenix, because there wouldn't be much on this part of the country. That's for sure. None of these valleys would be here. A big portion of LA would not have developed as it has, or San Diego. None of the river valleys, such as from Havasu down to Mexico, would be here. The Mexicali valleys, the San Luis valleys, the Yuma, Imperial, Palo Verde, Parker, they just wouldn't exist.
So not only is this a big river, it in every sense of the word continues to be a very powerful river.
It is the lifeblood of the western United States, absolutely.
More water from the Colorado River, and now it really gets interesting. Peter, introduce yourself to everybody.
Peter Nelson, I'm the Vice President of the Coachella Valley Water District.
And I guess the first question we need to ask, this is a little geography lesson, how far away are we right now from the Colorado River?
We're 140 miles away from the Colorado River.
So this water has come 140 miles west into the Coachella Valley.
It's just amazing. This volume of water comes here, and the Coachella Valley Water District delivers it through an incredible delivery system, all underground.
Now this is what I find interesting, because I live in Palm Springs, and I'd always been under the impression that we here in the Coachella Valley were using water from this huge underground aquifer that had enough water in it to last forever. I had never heard that we imported water from the Colorado River. How much water do we bring in?
About half the water the Coachella Valley is imported. That's 300,000 acre-feet into the Coachella Valley that grows a wild diversity of crops here.
Do you think most people know that?
I don't think most people know that. They think that we pump the water out of the ground right into the tap, and that's true, but in order to have a vibrant industry like agriculture and golf and leisure and tourism, we have to have this water.
So wait a minute, this water is helping grow these golf courses out here too, not just the agriculture.
Not just the agriculture. It supports a $600 million industry in agriculture, but it also irrigates golf courses and homes and those kinds of things.
Well, it's late afternoon. We're in the vineyards. All the workers have gone home, but Peter has brought us here to show us something, and right off the bat, look at this. What have we got here, Peter?
Oh, Huell, this is great. All the water you saw coming down that canal produces all these crops. We have seedless watermelons, seedless grapes. We have cantaloupe, grapefruit,
lemons, oranges,
bell peppers, onions, carrots, sweet corn, bicolored corn, any kind of corn you want.
So wait a minute. All of this is grown right now in the Coachella Valley.
We turn Colorado River water into these crops. It's so great.
Now, you didn't bring us here, though, to show us this. Well, you brought us here to show us this, but you got an ace up your sleeve here that you want to show us, something that you all are very proud of.
Come on in. I want to show you some of this water we got going in here. We're actually irrigating right now, Huell. And if you'll look at this, we've got that Colorado River dripping right underneath this vine right here. And it's a far cry from the old days when this whole field would just be flooded with water, but we can precisely irrigate each vine just as much water as we want.
So this is something new that you're doing to conserve water.
That's right. Back in the 40s, when the canal water came in, it was all flood irrigation. But since we have a limited supply of water, we're using drip irrigation, we're using micro sprays, T-tape underground subsurface irrigation. It's all very cool stuff.
Now this is all new technology or something that you're really using for the first time in a big way here in the Coachella Valley?
Well, it started about in the 70s, and it started out with little button emitters just like this.
So that's what we're looking at there.
Just like that. And the water comes through the tube after it's all filtered and then boosted the pressure up, and then it drips out there. And I also have some another piece here that we use under the citrus trees, and this is a fan. In fact, that hole is I think 300,000ths of an inch in diameter, and it sprays all underneath that citrus tree.
And what's interesting about this uses just a fraction of the water that the farmers would have used just a couple of decades ago.
Just a fraction, and then we can also inject specific fertilizers for specific needs to make us that much more productive. In fact, let me show you some T-tape that I have. This is what the vegetable guys use, and here's a clear one here. The water comes through this, and these are actually emitters that are underground, so there's no evaporation, only water used for the plant.
This is amazing. The farmers who were farming here 100 years ago would have had no concept of this kind of technology, would they?
They could never dream of this productivity we have today with this water.
Is this the future, this type of irrigation?
This is the future now, and there are extremely smart people making it even better every day.
You know, traveling through the agricultural areas of the Coachella Valley really gives you an idea of how successful our California growers have become in literally turning the desert into rich farming areas. And when you talk about success stories, it doesn't get any better than the Coachella Valley. And then a few miles south in the productive Imperial Valley, which was our next stop. Now here's another view of the Colorado River right here.
That's right. That's sweet water. That's water we irrigate all this ground with over here, and it's good water. We love it.
You call it sweet water?
Yeah, because it doesn't have too much salt in it, but it has 700 parts per million, but we can live with that because we know how to use it.
You also, when you talk about it being sweet, like you say, you definitely know farmers definitely know how to use it here in California, in the Imperial Valley. Now, you were telling me this is a field of wheat right here.
That's right.
How does this compare? Let's talk a little bit about the wheat here compared to, for example, the amount of wheat farmers grow in the Midwest, which when we think of wheat, we think of Kansas and Nebraska and...
Well, this is durum wheat. We grow about 140 to 150 bushels per acre on this wheat out here because we order the water when we need it. We put all the seed in there and we put fertilizer in. We can run fertilizer in the water. The national average is probably less than 40 bushel to the acre.
All right, now wait a minute. Let's go over those figures again. The national average for wheat is 40 bushels to the acre.
Or less.
And here in the Imperial Valley, we're talking about 130 bushels to the acre.
Or more, between 130 and 150 bushels per acre. Because we got good weather, we got good water, and we grow every day. Except we don't grow on Christmas Day. We take Christmas off. But other than that, we work every day.
And look, you've got water everywhere.
That's a pump back system. We recirculate that water and reuse it again. All the surface runoff flows in that reservoir right there. We pick it up with this pump and pump it back up there a half a mile and run it in this field. Pump it all up there a mile and run it in that other field. And we cut that alfalfa about 8 times a year.
Now, that's interesting too. You cut this field, you harvest it 8 times a year. Now, let's give some figures on what they do with alfalfa in the rest of the country.
Well, most of the rest of the country, unless it's a real highly irrigated area, it's about 3 times that they cut their alfalfa. Sometimes it's only 2. But starting about mid-February, we cut about every 28 days till we get to September.
So really the secret of all of this is the combination of the water and the weather combined to make this area so rich?
And good farmers and lots of water. And when you produce that kind of crop, you're going to need more water. When you produce that kind of wheat, you got to have more water to produce that.
So water is critical.
It's just from heaven. When we pick up the telephone, we say, God, give us 12 foot of water tomorrow. We mean our water district is going to give us 12 foot of water tomorrow. That's how much we're going to need to irrigate this field maybe for one day.
Now, this is about as basic and historic and old-fashioned as it gets.
It's been this way for about 100 years, except we've got some newer concrete canals. It used to be dirt.
What's this called exactly?
This is called a main gate in a Oak Canal. This is Oak Canal.
All right, now let's just say I'm the farmer and I've got this wheat over here that I need watered. How do I get water down this, what do we call this, a ditch, a canal? What is this called?
Oak Canal. We call it Oak Canal.
The Oak Canal. Okay.
O-A-K.
How do I get water from this canal into my field?
Well, tomorrow morning before 12 o'clock, I call the Imperial Irrigation District Water Control and tell them I want 12 foot of water for 2 days. And they just come out here tomorrow morning, they lower this gate and open up that gate.
All right, so they'd lower this gate to stop the water, and they would raise this gate to bring water from here, through here, down this dry canal now, into this field.
That's right.
Now, how do they know exactly how much water the farmer's getting? What if the farmer wanted to cheat a little bit, or?
Well, they come out here and check it about 4 times a day, but that gatekeeper, the district, we call him a sand harrow, he's got a yardstick, same one he used 100 years ago, and he can measure how much water you're getting in there. He can tell you within a third of a foot of water, if you're getting 12 foot of water. It may fluctuate a little bit at the start, but pretty soon it settles down and you're getting 12 foot of water for 24 hours.
So that's, he'd come down, open up the gate, the water would flow through for 24 hours, water this field, and then you'd come back and lower the gate until you needed more water.
That's correct. Till we order water again the next time.
Boy, it's pretty simple, isn't it?
About as simple as it can be, but it's worked good for 100 years,
Yeah.
so we don't want to change it too much except make modern improvements like concrete lining the canals. Oh, we could get some fancy wheels on this sucker here, but you know, it costs a lot of money, and these guys know how to do this.
Who laid this out 100 years ago? There are hundreds of miles of canals in this county.
About 1,500 miles of them and 1,400 miles of drain. A lot of people a hell of a lot smarter than me did it. I'm telling you that some people named Rockwood, and I don't know who the rest of them were, but they were awful smart people.
Yeah.
And they laid it all out, and it's been serving us ever since.
Now, do farmers down here take this water for granted, or do they know how precious it is?
They know how precious it is, but they've had it here for so long, about 100 years, that they just kind of think that it's theirs, and it is. And then there's a lot of people that fought hard and did this 100 years ago and 90 years ago, and we've been good stewards down here, and we produce a lot per acre down here, and we
When
love
they
it.
first started farming down here, back at the turn of the century, around 1900?
That's right.
There was nothing here. This was all desert.
All desert. It's a delta from the Colorado River when it overflows, and of course we're about 120 below sea level right here now. So it was just nothing but a flat desert down here with a lot of cactus and a lot of lizards down here. They just leveled it and put in all these canals and all these drain ditches and started farming.
In their wildest dreams, do you think they ever thought that someday we'd be standing here looking out at a site like this in the middle of the California desert?
I don't think that, but they were very smart people, but I don't know that they realized all the changes that's taken place in that 100 years and about how our production, because of new varieties of seeds and the way that farmers are good stewards, are good environmentalists. You know, when we take this alfalfa out, maybe it goes there for 5 years before we take it out. We don't go back with alfalfa again. We go to another crop because we want to clean up the ground.
You're always having to innovate and come up with more efficient ways of using the water and the land.
And the land. We grow sugar beets only 2 years out of 5 years because we don't want to poison the soil. We grow onions. We grow big old onions like this that you just eat them almost like an apple. and we grow those, and we don't grow them but 1 year out of 5. So we're good stewards of the soil, but our production pays off when we do that. It doesn't pay off if we don't do that.
Are you good stewards of the water? Because that's what we hear about is waste of water or not proper use of water. It's being used well.
It's used well here. We have surface runoff because we leach the salts out of this ground, and we have surface runoff. For other areas, they may not have as much, they may not even have any surface runoff, but there's very few areas in the world that can produce a ton of wheat or a ton of sugar beets or a ton of alfalfa for the amount of water that we produce a ton. So if you want to compare an area that it may take 3 acre-foot of water to produce that, when we can do it in 1 acre-foot of water.
Yeah.
But we use it 5 times as much because our weather is that way. We farm all the time, 364 days out of the year.
I know, you take off for Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, do you think most Californians, when they sit down to their dinner table at night, have any idea about where all of this comes from and how those early pioneers who brought the water in and made the desert bloom?
I hope they do. I don't know that they do, but I hope they do. They know a lot about their cities. They know a lot about all the things that's going on in the world because they see it every day. But agriculture, you just see it when you sit down at the table, and people don't really understand where it comes from because they can find lots of it. Now, if there's going to be a shortage of it, I'll guarantee they're going to find out where it's going to be. If they couldn't get any sugar or they couldn't get any bread at the grocery store, well, then they'd start looking. It's the same with the milk. I tell everybody, drink a lot of milk because that's where this alfalfa goes to, is to the dairies to make cheese and milk for the people and things like this. And they say this is a low-volume crop, low-dollar volume crop. Well, it may be to them, but when you take what that milk is selling for a gallon and you take what cheese sells for a pound, it's a part of that alfalfa.
Boy, you got it all figured out, don't you?
Well, I ain't got it all figured out, but is it? I don't like people criticizing agriculture, and I don't like them criticizing the use. I know they can take a Budweiser plant, and it'll employ a lot more people and a lot less water. They can take a manufacturing plant, and it'll do the same thing. But they got to eat sometime during the day. They may can drink a lot day, but they got to eat sometime. When they do, we want them to think about us. All of the agriculture in California and the United States, but especially this.
And when you talk about agriculture, here it is once again. This is just another view of the Colorado River right here, full of what you call sweet water.
Sweet water because we've already used it once and we're going to use that sucker again. We ain't going to let it go to waste. We're going to use it again. We may use some of it 3 times, and it's still sweet. It runs off that ground, it runs in here, and it's still sweet. Now, over there in that drain ditch, that ain't sweet water, but this is sweet water, and we love it.
Let's get one more look at it. Sweet water.
Sweet water right
from
there.
From the Colorado River.
From the Colorado River.
The Imperial Valley is an amazing place, a huge green oasis in the middle of the desert. And as our Colorado River adventure continued, we next traveled to the Imperial Dam, which is a vital part of California's water story. But before we got to the dam itself, we spent some time on Imperial Dam Lake, a huge wetlands area, which was a totally unexpected but very pleasant surprise. Well, it's one thing to talk about the Colorado River. It's another to be out on the Colorado River. And this is the first opportunity we've had to actually come out onto the water, Jose. And you have set us up with Johnny here. Johnny, you're an official. Is this an official tour we're taking?
Unofficial.
You don't give these every day?
Well, to friends.
I got you.
Not strangers.
Well, we're friends.
Yeah, we are.
Now, this kind of gives people another way of looking at the river, because when you look over here, this is just spectacular.
Yeah, sure it is. It's relaxing. A lot of people have the opportunity to come around here and enjoy all this viewing and the fishery and different water sports that is around here.
Well, people love this river.
It sure did. I mean, it's a lot of people comes here. I mean, just to relax and enjoy this place. I mean, it's especially during the afternoons, the sunset, everything. It's one of the beauties that we, the residents, have here.
Now, what is this area here? It's so green and lush. I think of the river as just kind of going, just this big old river flowing down.
Yeah. Well, what can I tell you? I mean, the pictures show more than words. I mean, you know,
yeah.
This is fantastic.
Are there other places up and down the river where it's this beautiful?
From Blythe, probably, down here, this is unique.
Yeah.
This is unique.
Well, there's a place called Walder's Camp where they put a lot of canoe trips come down river. And it takes them about 3 days, and they have camp spots on the way down. And Walder's Camp down to Imperial Dam is the most beautiful stretch.
Now, is this the main stretch of the river right here? We're out in the main channel.
We are on the main channel of the Colorado River.
Now we've come on some fishermen. What have you got there?
Got a largemouth.
A largemouth. How big is that thing?
It's 14 inches.
Wow.
The legal limit's 13 here.
Legal limit is 13 inches.
I'm gonna cook him with fried potatoes.
And that one's 14 inches.
That's right.
What if, oh, okay, you barely made the limit.
Yeah, 1 inch over. I'm saying that loud in case the game warden's around.
Is this a good place for fishing?
Yeah, all this river's good. It's just slow. Last night down at Metric was great. We tore them up down there last night. But
really?
Here, I've had 3 bumps here and just caught this one.
So the Colorado River has a lot of good fishing in it.
Oh yeah, it's got great fishing in it. Largemouth, catfish, flathead, channel cat. Got red ears, bluegill.
Smallmouth.
Yeah.
Has your partner caught anything today?
No.
I got a bump, and that's been it so far today.
He's running the boat and I'm fishing.
Now, Johnny, you're bringing us to a part of the Colorado River that none of us even, I never knew this existed.
Yeah, it used to be a secret little spot, but a lot of people word of mouth gets around real quick, and a lot of people know about it now, and they have a lot of fun recreation back here.
You were telling me that this is your favorite part of the river.
All of it's my favorite, but this is kind of a special little place back here.
Well, this isn't what most people think of when they think of the Colorado River.
Yeah, you're right, because they think it's just a big river, and actually there's so many backwaters and little lakes along the river that they provide all kinds of wildlife habitat, fishing opportunities, and just great sightseeing and wildlife viewing. It's got it all just about, except alligators.
It's hard to believe that this is the same river that we started looking at up at Hoover Dam.
Yeah, it's a lot different up. The further upriver you go, it really does change a lot. But this lower Colorado River, it has its own uniqueness, and well, there's lots of people that enjoy it.
Boy, it has its own uniqueness and its own beauty. Look at this. I don't want to leave.
Well, you can stay here. We have a guest house.
There's a lot to see up here.
Oh, this river, if we had time, we could go further up and show you the Imperial Wildlife Refuge.
Now, what's there?
And that is a wildlife refuge for the waterfowl when they come in the wintertime. Ducks, all kinds of different ducks, Canadian geese, snow geese.
Wow.
Even if you get there at the right time, they have viewing stations, and a lot of times you'll see deer, mule deer that come out of the desert area that borders it.
Now, I know a lot of people know about this for recreational areas, but do you think a lot of people know about this as far as wildlife viewing is concerned and nature? And boy, look at these. Are these just big, what are these, just reeds?
Cane tules, or bamboo tules they call them.
Wow. Do you think most people know about this?
Not really. I mean, most of the people, they come up with recreational boats.
Yeah, they're on jet
that's
skis
right.
or boats
but they don't
going
have the
fast.
time. They don't have the time to explore this beautiful places, you know, unfortunately.
Now, this is all protected and all preserved, right?
It is.
This isn't going anywhere.
Yes, it is.
Wow. I have a feeling you like to get out here and just kind of do this a lot.
Well, if I could make a living at it, that's where I'd be, but...
Well, wait a minute, what do you do for a living?
Construction maintenance worker here at Imperial Dam.
He should be giving tours.
Yes. We have to schedule him. That's the reason he's here with us. He's our expert.
But I mean, you know what? Why he's good? Because you can tell he really loves this place.
Yes, he does. And he don't get paid for these tours.
Yeah. And it does get in your blood, doesn't it?
Oh, ever since I was a kid, I grew up on this river. Duck hunting, fishing, skiing, water skiing. So it's a part of me.
Yeah.
His father was part of the River Division maintenance people. So he grew up here in this area.
Wow. Has it changed that much over the years?
Actually, the river doesn't change that much. It's just you got to know where the sandbars are so you don't run into them.
Yeah.
But the main river...
As far as the look and the feel?
No, it's been the same since I can remember.
Oh, look, what is this?
This is the entrance to a small side lake.
But look at these cliffs up here.
Yeah, there's some beautiful rock formations back in here.
Wow.
We call this Little Senators back in here, and it's big enough to water ski in and play with the jet skis, and then there's a cliff back here that a lot of the crazy people like to jump off of and just have fun.
Well, I like the big lake. Oh, here we come into the big lake now.
Yeah, this is the entrance to it.
But I like these cliffs.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And a lot of, back in the early 80s, they reintroduced the Harris hawk. And years ago, this was his native habitat. And through the pesticides and whatnot, it got on the endangered list, and like I said, in the early 80s, they reestablished that hawk into his natural habitat, which is these cliffs you're looking at.
Wow, this is just, of course, we had a beautiful day for it. The lighting is perfect, the water is calm and clear, but I have a feeling it's hard to have a bad day on this river, isn't it?
Well, the only way you can have a bad day is if the weather turns bad on you.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's always a good day.
The old Colorado River, it just keeps rolling along. And now, Jay, you have brought us to a place I'm never sure completely where we are, which state we're in and where we are in the state. I know that we've stayed pretty much on the river. Is that Arizona over there?
Yes, it is, Huell. We've come about 200 miles downriver since we started this little adventure at Hoover Dam, and we're about 20 miles north of the Mexican border. Arizona's behind me. California is behind you.
And this is the Colorado River, and you are very excited about us being at this particular place. I've never seen you this excited on the river so far.
Well, this location is operated by the Imperial Irrigation District, and it's a very important point in the river because it is a point where water from the river is diverted to 2 states plus the Republic of Mexico. And I've asked Jose to stop by. Jose is with Imperial Irrigation District, and he's going to explain how all of this works.
You're not just with the district, you're the head guy, aren't you?
Well, I'm the superintendent of the River Division.
Big enough to me.
Yes.
Now tell us what we're looking at. This is the Colorado River that we have grown to know and love as it comes south out of Hoover Dam.
That's exactly right.
This is the Colorado River, which looks significantly smaller to me after you get through with it here, right?
That is correct.
And where does this water go? Is this the water that goes all the way down to Mexico?
Water in the Colorado River that we just looked at is on its way south. It goes down to Mexico, and Mexico gets some of its entitlement from this river. Some comes from other places. It gets a little complicated, and there's no point going into that. But you're exactly right. This is more or less the natural bank of the Colorado River right here on its way to Mexico.
And the reason this amount of water looks smaller than this amount of water is because of what's happening right over here. Now, Jay, I want to talk to both of you about this because this is a very significant use of Colorado River water. What are we looking at right now?
Well, the Imperial Irrigation District is the agency in California that uses the largest amount of Colorado River water, and they use it primarily for agricultural purposes. And so we're looking at what water wonks call the headworks, and that means the beginning point. This is the beginning of the All-American Canal that carries water to Imperial Irrigation District farmers, and it also carries this water over to the Coachella Valley, which is sort of the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area.
Now, I've seen aerial shots of this. How long is this canal?
Well, it goes from the headworks to the end point in Calexico, in the city of Calexico, is 80 miles.
So it's an 80-mile long canal built in
Up in the 1930s.
And this was a big deal when it was built, wasn't it, Jay?
It was a big deal because the United States interests wanted to more or less control the operation of the canal itself. The original one had been built in Mexico, called the Alamo Canal. This was built, as Jose said, in the 1930s, and it's all on United States soil, and so under United States interests.
Hence called the All-American Canal.
Hence called the All-American Canal.
And what happens to this water? Is this the water that makes Imperial County so green and really literally the breadbasket of the world?
This is exactly, this is the section 1 of the All-American, and like I said, I mean, it goes all the way to Imperial Valley.
And all the way down, the water comes off this canal and irrigates all of this farmland.
That's correct. There are individual farmers all the way from here into the Coachella area, and each of them has the opportunity to take water off of the All-American Canal to irrigate their fields.
Now, I've heard that, for example, when the astronauts were up in space and they were looking out, the Imperial Valley was so green that they could actually see it out of their spaceship.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Number one, they do grow an awful lot of crops down here that, by their nature, are green. Crops like alfalfa, lettuce, and things that are green anyway. But the other reason that you can see it so well is because of the contrast between the brown desert, which exists around the area and is not irrigated, of course, and then the green belts of the farms themselves. So you've got this tan, light tan color against this very sharp and vivid green.
And basically every bit of that green in Imperial County is created by this water right here.
That is correct.
So the All-American Canal, this is a very critical spot we're standing right here as far as water use is concerned.
Yes, it is. This is where we probably prevent all the high maintenance over the All-American Canal by having those silted basins, as you can see in the background.
What's happening over there?
Those are practically what we do is we get all the silt out of the Colorado River.
All the silt?
True, yes. And
there's a lot of silt left in the water?
Well, the Colorado River, Colorado in Spanish means red, and before all of the dams were built, Parker Dam, Hoover Dam, just keep going upriver, the river itself actually ran red because there was so much silt and dirt suspended in it, and hence the name Colorado. The silt is still there, and this is the largest silt removal process in the world. And so what they're doing is that they're removing the fine suspended materials that are in the water, and they drop out, and then the water continues on to the farmers. And because of that operation, the farmers don't have to worry about silt in their irrigation water, number one, and the district doesn't have to worry about that silt over many, many years clogging up their canal.
I got you. Boy, this is all so interesting and so technical. The average person who comes by here doesn't have a clue what's going on, do they?
No, it doesn't. So sometimes we have to give tours.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we're getting.
Educate the people.
We're getting our little self-guided tour right here, thanks to you all. But the idea is that this is the water, and it's kind of bled off a little bit all the way down, 63 miles. That's responsible for this rich agricultural area we know as the Imperial Valley.
That's right. This water is responsible for most of the winter produce in this country and exports abroad. It's a critical area.
Wow, so let's get one more look at it. Here's the Colorado River all the way down here as it arrives at this dam. What's the name of this place again?
This is the Imperial Dam.
Imperial Dam. Then here is the water that is going in the All-American Canal, and then if you look right over here to your left through the palm trees, you can see the original Colorado River still flowing all the way down to Mexico. Well, the adventure continues. We are still in Imperial County. We're standing here right beside the All-American Canal. I'm standing with Jim. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, Huell, I'm Jim Bond. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors for the San Diego County Water Authority.
San Diego. Now, San Diego is what, about 150 miles west of here?
We're over the hill in the coastal plain, as the folks in the valley call it.
Okay, now we're standing here, though, in Imperial County, this rural agricultural county with all these beautiful green fields made green because of this water from the Colorado River. When I stand here and look at this water, I want to jump in it and get cool. When Jim stands next to this water, you don't want to jump in it. You want to get a couple of buckets and take some of it with you back to San Diego, don't you?
I'd like to buy some of it, that's right.
Now let's fill everybody in on that, because the politics of this water continues throughout the whole length and breadth of the Colorado River.
Absolutely.
What's the deal?
Well, the deal is we don't want to say we want ag's water, and it's not an either-or situation. It's a situation of we think we can have ag and urban satisfied with the water. And the deal, the arrangement that we had hoped to make with Imperial County was to conserve water on the farms, have us send the money over to help conserve that water, and then the water that's conserved, still grow the crops, can be sent to San Diego, and we'd pay for that water, and we'd help pay for the conservation infrastructure needed to do that.
So what you're saying is you've got needs in San Diego, just like they have needs in Los Angeles and San Bernardino and Riverside counties. People need to drink water and bathe in water. At the same time, these farmers, in order to put food on our table, have to have water to grow their crops. So there's got to be a way to make it all work.
I think we can do both. As I said, it's not either or. If we don't do both, we're in a lot of trouble, because I need to eat just as much as I need to drink. And these folks do a terrific job of providing the food. We don't want that to stop. What we want to do is to grow the pie, as you've heard, make that water as effectively used as we can. On the plain, we use every drop of water as many times as we can before we finally let it go to the ocean. We reclaim it, we'll inject it in the ground, we'll pump it back out. All important. And all we're saying here is the ideal solution is to be able to do the same amount of farming in a more water-effective way, and then that water that's saved, sell it to us. We'll pay you for it.
Well, this is exciting. We are ending our Colorado River journey here in Mexico itself. And Jose, you have brought us here to this dam. The name of this town is?
Is Los Algodones in Mexico, and the name of this place is the Morelos Dam.
Morelos Dam.
Yes, most of the people think that it's Morales, but it's Morelos.
Now, there's his statue down there. Who was he?
Well, Morelos was one of the national heroes of Mexico.
So that's why the dam's named after him.
That is correct.
Well, thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
helping us out, especially for taking us on that boat tour through the reeds. That
Great.
stands out as one of the high points of our trip, seeing that aspect of the Colorado River. Thank you very much.
You're more welcome.
All right, we're ending it up, Jay. We started, how many 100 miles up the river?
Well, we've come more than 200 miles, Huell, from Hoover Dam, where we started, and that's only a very small piece of the Colorado River, which is over 1,400 miles long.
Where does the Colorado River start, technically?
Technically, the headwaters are in streams coming out of Colorado and Wyoming.
So it's 1,400 miles long. We've just been on 200 miles of it, and it kind of hopped and skipped along it. This is a big river with a lot of stories.
It's a big river. It's an important river. It's got massive storage on it in Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which most people are familiar with because they're heavily used recreational areas. We started our trip, as I indicated, at Lake Mead, 220, 230 miles upriver from here. Not only is the river important, Huell, but I think what people need to understand, and I hope what some of them take away from this program, is, number one, there are a lot of agencies. There are 7 states that rely on the Colorado River water for some or all of their water. There's a foreign country, Mexico, that relies for some of its water from the Colorado River. And then within each state, you have entities that need to share the water. And what I think what people need to take away from this is that for the most part, those states and those agencies within the states, and Mexico for that matter, have really done a pretty good job managing the water up to this time. The problem is that we have come to a point in history in the southwestern United States where all of this water is used. That wasn't true in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. There was always a little bit of water left over. That time is gone. And I think that where that leaves us is that everyone needs to understand that this river needs to be shared. And it needs to be shared in the most efficient way that we all can figure out how to share it. People have been fighting wars over water since Moses parted the Red Sea, I think, and we don't need to do that on the Colorado. There are ways to share it. There are efficiencies that can be made. You've had some folks talk about increasing the amount of water for cities by getting agricultural water, and I think that'll happen over time, but it has to happen in a cooperative spirit. It can't happen in a war zone.
Well, we've learned a lot. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has learned a little bit. It's a very complicated story. There are lots of layers, lots of chapters, but the bottom line is, there it is right there. The Colorado River. On this adventure, we started at Hoover Dam. We've ended here in Mexico. It's a big river, and this is a big story. The story of the Colorado River and the way it affects all of us here in Southern California. Hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser. I sure hope you enjoyed our adventure on the historic and very important Colorado River. And if you'd like to see this adventure again, or share it with family and friends, or perhaps donate it to your local school or library, it's available on video cassette. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727 and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.
This special on the Colorado River is funded by the Colorado River Association, CH2M Hill, and Montgomery Watson Harza.